And of course, we were still on the plane. He didn't ask us to leave. He said, we're just going to be delayed a few minutes. We all thought it was a Cessna because prior to that, about 2 or 3 weeks prior, a Major League Baseball player had accidentally flown a plane into one of the buildings over the East River. So that was the first intuition. He got on a few minutes later and said, well, a second plane has hit another building. We're not really sure what's going on. We think it might be a terrorist attack, but we don't really know. So we're canceling the flight, and that led to one chain of events after another. So everyone gets off the plane. We're in quite a bit of a confusion there at LaGuardia. Not sure what to do, where we're going to get on another plane, what's going on here. So I'm mingling around, trying to figure things out. I pull out my flip phone, which was a Star Trek flip phone at the time. That's about all we had. And I called my wife to let her know I was okay, because they were seeing a lot of events on the TV at that time. But shortly thereafter, they canceled the flight completely, said go home, go away. And where are my keys? They're in that bag down below. The only way to get into a 7.5 is you need a baggage loader to get up and in the bag. So I was going to go down and get my keys, but that wasn't happening. So I just made my way out to the street and was going to figure out how to get home. I was a local, lived about 80 miles away. And so, excuse me, shortly thereafter, just about the time we're leaving, there's a bomb scare at LaGuardia to add on top of this. Not sure how or who or how it got called in, but everyone started to evacuate. Mass exodus out to the street. No one could really find anything. I got on the nearest bus, which was a Q13, I think. I didn't know anything about the busing. But they were just getting people out of the city. Everything was gratis. There was no fees for any of to use the trains or the buses. So we got on there, and it was a pretty solemn and horrific event. You could see it. We just looked right out the window. You could see the tower smoking. You know, we were that close, or LaGuardia is. So then I made my way home, and what normally takes me an hour and a half took me 6 hours to get home. But I was happy as a camper because I took a bus to a train, and I made my way home. But on the bus, somebody had this new thing called a BlackBerry, and she was texting her colleagues, which were down there in downtown Wall Street. So she was kind of giving us a blow-by-blow of what was going on, and we were all trying to piece this thing together. So after the next few hours, we make our way home. I find a friend of mine who was in the city for cancer treatment. His wife picked us up and drove us the rest of the way home. The next couple days, I was also in the reserve unit with C9s, DC-9s, a Navy unit out of Willow Grove. And I didn't do it, but my unit went that next day, or I think it was 2 days later. They launched a C9, which we did medium lift all over the world with the plane. They took it to Chicago, loaded it up with torches, and brought it back. And they were one of the only ones flying, and they flew that into LaGuardia and loaded that out. Because what did they need? They needed torches to cut all the steel downtown. Vinnie Dans, as Chuck mentioned, one of the police officers, Vinnie's sister-in-law was my daughter's fourth grade teacher. So it hit home. A few days later, a week later, my daughter says, what can we do? And I said, I know. Let's have a bake sale. So we had a bake sale that following week. All the kids, everyone wanted to pitch in and do something. So that's what we did. We had a bake sale. I took all the flags from the cemetery and the VFW guys, and we sold all the flags. And we made $1,300 and gave it to my daughter's fourth grade teacher to give to Vinnie's family. So that's my story. A sad story, but rest in peace. I didn't know the crews of the two because I was too new, but I'm sure there's some other folks here who do. Rest in peace.
So I just wanted to again give a round of applause for Captain Lynn O'Donnell and David Corwin, representing American Airlines and United Airlines, respectively. Unfortunately, that day, 2 American Airlines were hijacked and 2 United Airlines were hijacked. Some people don't know that they were headed, all 4 were headed for California, so they had significant amount of fuel, for that 3,000-mile journey. And And that's probably the biggest reason why these towers ended up falling, because the steel and all the part of the structure that was melting at tremendous heat temperatures. I always like to tell people that the most naturally occurring hot source on Earth is lava, and that's about 2200 degrees. And of course, nothing can stop lava. It'll go into the ocean and still remain hot for days and months on end, and then form an island or other parts of land. So to understand that it was 2000 plus degrees inside the World Trade Center, it's just an unbelievable amount of heat that would cause that structure to fail. What I wanted to say more about that was that the architect who had originally designed the World Trade Center was worried in the late 60s when he was designing it, and the architect, he was worried that these buildings would fall and move forward and crush other buildings because they were so tall, and they were the tallest buildings in the world at that time, 110 stories. So he did this. He said, I'm going to build it with steel on the outside only, mostly on the outside. So he created each building with tridents. I don't know if you've ever seen the facade of the towers, but the first piece of steel beam is about 3 stories high and goes off into tridents. And then those tridents carry the other pieces of steel, about 72 altogether, around the structure. And the floors were then soldered